All right. Hi, everyone. We are here on episode 3 of Growth Engineering Podcast. Myself, Bala Vishal, go-to-market advisor, been head of growth, demand, and marketing at startups and enterprises for the last 15 years or so. I also have with me Dima from Tommy.ai, the co-founder of Tommy.ai. Dima, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, hello, Bala. Nice to see you after this short break that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently building Tommy.ai together with my co-founder, Konstantin, who is the technical brain behind our product and who is our CEO. I'm more in charge of go-to-market strategy and execution, as well as media strategy and other strategy for our key accounts. Before joining Tommy AI, I was doing a lot of consulting work. I started my consulting career at McKinsey & Company back in 2006. I spent about 3 years serving multiple different clients across oil and gas, financial services, even a little bit of public sector clients. One of the pivotal projects was us actually helping to organize a soccer championship back in the day in one of the Eastern European countries.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a nice experience. I met a lot of great people. After that, I actually left McKinsey to spend 8 years with one of McKinsey's big international financial institutions customer. They're a member of a Fortune Global 500 group. I was in various positions, but most of the tenure I was actually leading strategy and business development efforts as a board minus one executive for retail and SME business
Mhm.
of this financial conglomerate, very diversified, 20 countries, more than 15 million active customers, billions
Wow.
of dollars in profits, hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. So big corporation. After that, I did a little bit of boutique independent consulting. I moved to America and started a new life here. And I did quite a bit of boutique banking consulting back in the day, but at some point I realized I'm becoming this old school corporate guy. And I really wanted to get into those more fresh and modern things like machine learning, digital, and Tommy I honestly seemed like a perfect opportunity. I know Konstantin from my days in Stanford, and he is an MBA graduate. I was doing some executive education at Stanford Graduate School of Business. And I immediately liked the idea. I invested a little bit as an angel investor. I started working with him as an advisor. I introduced Tommy to some of my consulting clients. Everybody was excited and happy. We did some successful pilots initially. And I got so excited, I joined Tommy AI full time. So that's in a nutshell my story.
Lovely. That's actually more than what I knew about you. So thank you for that. There's a lot more, like even the soccer piece was fun. So that's interesting that you have had your hands in marketing, sales, consulting, go to market as part of that. So you've worn different hats. So
Yeah.
as part of that, I'm just curious, like I think a week or two before I heard you talk about, you could say leaking revenue or bleeding revenue, as you call it. I would love to hear what do you mean by that? And you could say, and where do you see the problem being?
The technology landscape is changing daily, and obviously, some of the missed opportunities that were always there have not been highlighted, and the tools to actually fix those leakages, they just didn't exist a few years ago.
Right.
And one of the primary problems that we are trying to solve here at Tommy is to help different businesses, primarily lead gen, long cycle businesses like B2B SaaS or expensive education or real estate or automotive, but also high ticket e-commerce as well, to actually stop wasting their marketing dollars and stop losing revenue due to poor understanding of buyer intent of their website
Ah,
visitors.
yeah.
And buyer intent is a hot topic these days, especially here in the United States. But most of the intent data providers, they initially focus on third-party intent data or maybe second-party intent data, the intent data that you do not own. And everybody has this idea that, oh, there is this magical intent data and you only need to get your hands on this. You need to pay any
Right.
amount of money and buy an expensive account-based marketing platform, and all of your problems, all of your go-to-market struggles will be immediately solved because you will be reaching out to the
Yeah.
right customer at the right time, like with the right message. The truth is, it's not like that. The customer journey is complex, it's long term, and even though intent data as presented by Sixth Sense, Demandbase, and some other respected vendors like even G2.com out there, it's definitely very useful for a marketer. But it's not the ultimate solution, and especially if you are looking to optimize the down funnel performance, and your website acquisition performance, you really need to pay very close attention to first-party intent signals that usually just are completely missing from the equation. People assume that as good as you can do is just Google Analytics data or Adobe Analytics data, which is extremely superficial. I know very few marketers who track more than a few dozen events in their Google Analytics instance, and that kind of, you're basically flying blind on one eye, and give you an accurate picture of a specific determined by machine learning model driven by the website engagement patterns, the granular engagement patterns that include the full click stream, like you can imagine like a Hotjar heat map transformed into a log of customer micro actions. So that's basically what Tommy AI feeds off. And it gives you a specific, very specific estimate of a propensity to buy for every website visitor, including all of the anonymous ones, without actually needing to break their privacy, without the need to know if it's a man or a woman, how old are they, what business they are associated with. So by just looking at the website behavior, if you look on a granular enough level, we discover that you can understand the near-term buying intent, like 1 to 3 months from today, the bottom funnel intent, a lot better than even with the more kind of famous intent data sources. And we have been building multiple use cases to actually monetize this and prevent revenue leakage and customer leakage and improve conversion rates since about early 2020. So that's basically what this is about. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I agree. First party intent is the gold. We all know that as marketers, but it's so hard to mine that data. It's so hard to understand how that intent is playing on your website, how other factors outside the website are affecting that intent, what kind of campaigns you're driving that affect that intent. It's a pretty complex subject, which a lot of marketers do get scared to get into, which is why we try and find easy solutions sometimes.
Now, speaking about easy solutions, a couple of anecdotes from industry. I recently studied one of our competitors. We also do lead scoring, not just website visitor scoring, but lead scoring as well. And I found some fascinating stats on pricing page visitors is a very strong intent signal. Do you know why? Because 84% of recent qualified leads visited pricing page, 84%. Every sane potential customer would visit the pricing page eventually. So is it really a good identifier to differentiate who actually has strong intent versus who doesn't? If 84% of your qualified leads actually visit the pricing page, but only, 20% of them close, that should give you an idea that maybe this is not as simple as a lot of influencers and thought leaders out there want you to believe. In fact, we actually did a little digging into a handful of B2B SaaS customers of ours, and we identified that up to 75% of pricing page traffic is trash. It's bottom 50% of your visitor intent. And a lot of people who actually are showing intent, who are definitely in market, who have 20 times as big propensity to close than somebody who just visited the pricing page, they just go unnoticed with the current simplistic rule-based systems. And I totally agree with you that if you don't have a huge in-house team who is creative enough and has enough spare time and spare resources to just create a completely new framework out of the blue, and then make sure they have a proper discipline in validating this data, making sure everything is statistically significant, it's just so much trouble that personally, being in the shoes of an in-house marketer, if I hear that there is a potential solution from a vendor, the winning strategy would probably be to a small stakes, small risk pilot project with a vendor to see if the concept is actually working. And then if you really want, you can perfect it, build something in-house around it. But usually you have your in-house team always have a bigger fish to fry. And wasting the resource on something that is not yet proven and is actually very complex might not be the best of the ideas.
Yeah, like website marketing, CRO, on-page optimization, all these different strategies and tactics that we talk about, they're here to exist. They'll always be here to exist. Even with generative AI and everything else, we might see less traffic, but then the website traffic is still going to be gold. And so it's like knowing who is coming to that website and actually actioning them the right way versus just using a page to determine it is also weird.
Yeah.
And actually, it's that just reminded me because yesterday I was talking in another podcast where we were talking about buyer resolution. And that's a very different area that I have been seeing where there is like a lot more things happening. But to your point about pages and price pages, there's another funny thing is like today, every or most SaaS companies have a pricing page, but we all know how those pricing pages are made. Yes, they are trying to be transparent, but the actual price that is sold is not that. So like someone visiting there most likely knows that this is probably not the price that they're going to pay. There's some kind of discount they're expecting. So yeah, fair point. Yeah, I mean, this topic has so much to talk about. We might want to do because an episode just talking about website marketing and things like that, because I think this is like a lot more stuff on it.
I totally agree. And maybe right now I just want to drop like one more comment is why is it important to understand the buyer intent behind all those anonymous website visits? Because if you want to really run a lot of tests and try to find the different campaigns and traffic sources that are good for your business, that have positive ROI, you basically have two choices. Either go with your gut and basically spend what you have in the channels you believe in and hope and pray that things will work out. Or if you want to be a little bit more skeptical, a little bit more data driven, you can actually use those propensity to buy scores and customer value scores from an algorithm like ours, for example, where you can build a simpler version, maybe less data science driven version, maybe a simpler version of the intent algorithm. You can buy a few hundred clicks from a specific channel and already clearly see if the value of this traffic is double your average, half your average, or approximately the same as your average, which is extremely important, especially if you're buying some fancy, complicated third-party segments in programmatic platforms and other fancy ways to reach potential customers. But what's even more important is if you want to really zero in on the value proposition that truly resonates with a specific target audience you're speaking to, again, you can either not test anything because either way your sales cycle is long, your conversion rate is low, and measuring click-through rate, it's better than not measuring anything, but click-through rate may be high because it's a clickbaity message, and maybe the value of this traffic that is being generated by this creative is very low, but you won't know that until those trashy leads grow through the sales cycle and you know that you basically got nothing. And with predictive metrics, you can actually test a lot more different creatives in a lot more different channels. And you can clearly see, okay, this message does really like ring the bell with, I don't know, a CFO persona in this particular industry. And another valuable thing is that all those product jobs to be done interviews and customer interviews, they're usually like at least 6 months old. Pretty much any company, even the big company. And usually there are like, I don't know, 20 of them. And obviously 20 interviews or even 50 interviews, if you have 5 different personas in, I don't know, 5 different industry verticals you are targeting, what kind of statistical significance are we talking about? What kind of recency and freshness of data are we talking about? So that's why it's important for everyone to understand the buying intent behind their website traffic, because that's one of the leading metrics that actually shows you, okay, here is where you have traction. Here is the area that you really should focus on. And all other hypotheses, you can waste, I don't know, another $500,000, the prediction is you're not gonna hit the mark. But this particular segment and this particular segment with this kind of message is where you really should focus on.
Yeah, it's a traditional old saying, right? You can keep spending in marketing and hope to get the best, or you look at today's 3.0 marketing, if you can call it maybe, and think about how it's a performance marketing, brand-led marketing has a lot more to do with it. To your point about click-throughs, I barely even think about click-throughs too much. Click-throughs are important, don't get me wrong. Some leading indicator is good, so that your creative is working, is resonating. But keeping that as a way to define that your campaign is successful is a little old school, in my opinion. And there's so much evidence, even from my own experience in my recent past, where it's like we have ran campaigns worth $10,000 with 0.02% click-through rate, but we have seen a swell in our direct traffic, which is amazing because you wouldn't expect someone to click when they're reading something else, but they will have that brand recollection and come back. Or you might hear through some customer, or you might hear through some other channel, but they're definitely going to come back to you if the right messaging is shown to them. So
I totally agree with you that treating every channel as a short-term direct response channel is a big mistake.
Yeah.
Ignoring brand investments long-term, and brand investments, if done right, they pay compounded interest that can actually ensure your success for the years ahead as a marketer. Invest in brand today, collect the interest tomorrow, and basically keep your boss happy, present this compounded interest as, hey, we improved performance.
Yeah.
Most of this might be just the cumulative value of those brand investments you make. So the win-win situation. But the biggest mistake you can make is just don't think about brand and treat every channel as a simple direct response e-commerce performance channel. That's not something you as a marketer should do.
Yeah, and that reminds me of our joke from last time about growth hacking. It's like growth hacking is not possible. It's you can't expect hackers to hack growth. And that's where branding comes in. Unless you build your brand over years, you can't expect to have the flywheel effect of your growth to happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot more topics to talk about. Even when we talk about, you could say, buying, you could say, performance marketing and the role of marketing and finance, there is a whole separate set of issues you can go into and delve into. But I don't think we have enough time for today on that. I know your time is precious, so we'll keep it short. To conclude, I could say, what can we expect in the next few episodes?
I think, Bala, we should dwell a little bit on the messaging and the creative piece. I feel a lot of marketing and sales leaders, they actually know it in their heart, but not in their mind, that the number one reason they fail is not because cold outreach is dead. It's not because Facebook or Google or LinkedIn that's not working. The number one reason is actually your value proposition just fails to resonate with your buyer. And knowing how to measure the level of resonance, knowing how to run those test campaigns that are very precise and yet very statistically significant, I think that's the number one premise to build a strong brand and also build an effective customer acquisition machine. So I think that probably should be one of our focus points going forward. But I'm totally open to your suggestions too. Like, what do you have on your mind?
Yeah, that sounds fun. And as soon as you said that, I can think of a couple of guest speakers. I can reach out to them.
Okay.
So, spoiler alert, we might have a guest speaker on the next one.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, let's see how we make this out. But this was fun chat. Thank you for your time. I hope we will be now doing this on a more regular basis. So, good luck. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Bala. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Bye.